Hi, I'm Alvina Ling.
And I'm Grace Lynn.
And we're book friends
forever!
We're childhood friends
who grew up to be
a children's book editor
and an author and illustrator.
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the China and Taiwan trip episode.
And check out our website, bookfriendsforever.com, and our Instagram handle at bookfriendsforever_podcast. Alvina, how have you been?
I mean, I guess I'm starting because this whole episode is going to be about how you've been and your trip. So I've been good. What has been happening? So this past weekend was Pi Day, which
yes.
March 14th, 3/14. So a friend of ours had a Pi Day party. And so we were lazy, so we did not make pie, but we bought those Lisbonada Portuguese egg tarts.
Those are so good.
And those are a hit. But there were lots of great. So there was some savory pie. There was like Frito pie. There was shepherd's pie. There was 2 lemon pie. Anyway, it was really fun.
Now I feel sad that I didn't get to celebrate that.
You could celebrate next year. Have a belated Pi Day. And then we went out to New Jersey. So I've talked about my cousins, and they have 2 sons. And we, in the past, I would say 3 years, we've been going out to New Jersey for Owen, the older son's. He's always been in the school musical. And now the younger son, Luke, is a freshman in high school at the same high school. And he's in musicals.
Aww.
So we saw him in Pippin, which I've never seen before.
I didn't even know that. What is Pippin about?
It came out in the 60s or 70s, I think the 70s. And it's, I don't know, because obviously they had modernized it because they had like social media posts, but it was like a fictionalized prince named Pippin. He's the prince of King Charlemagne's son, and he's searching for purpose.
Okay.
So that's the whole plan.
Does he find his purpose?
He does. And of course it involves love.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually really sweet and original, and like we were really excited by it. So that was really fun. And then and now you're here on your way back from China.
Yes.
So Grace, how have you been?
I've been great. I mean, you could tell my voice is a little off because I've been 3 weeks traveling and the first week I was doing schools in Hong Kong, and then at the end of the week, after talking so much, my voice just started giving out, and then it kind of turned into a cough, into a sickness, and now I'm no longer coughing sick, but the voice still didn't come back. So that's where I am in terms of my voice. But it was a really, really awesome trip. I'm so glad I did it. I was really scared to do it, and it wasn't like completely smooth sailing, but I'm really, really glad I did it.
Yay. Okay. So we just thought that this episode would just be me asking Grace about her trip for the most part, and we'll do a fortune cookie as well. But okay, so you mentioned that it went smoothly for the most part, but I'm just curious, what were some of the challenges of the trip?
Okay, so the first thing was because I was going to Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan, I needed to put in an eSIM, especially for the China trip. And so I bought an eSIM beforehand, but I didn't activate it until I got to Hong Kong, which you're not supposed to really activate it until you're in the area. And that's when I found out that my eSIM doesn't work with my phone because my phone is locked, which I didn't realize. But luckily, just out of a fluke, I had brought a second phone with me, an older phone, which I had brought to specifically use to take like extra photos. But that one was unlocked. And so I had to like do this whole thing, buy a whole new eSIM, get it all downloaded and do it all over there. And it was like, and even getting that to work was a pain because that phone didn't have an Apple ID. Like it was like 4 hours of my life trying to set it all up. It was a real pain. So my advice is make sure that your eSIM works with your phone. Make sure your phone is unlocked before you go. But it was worth it because I really needed it, especially in China.
Okay, so you started in Hong Kong. I guess just share a little bit about your trip in Hong Kong, because I know you did some school visits. And then what were some of the highlights of Hong Kong?
So in Hong Kong, I got to go to the Hong Kong HKIS, Hong Kong International School, where I've been twice before. And it was awesome as usual. It's just the kids there are just so great. And they had done a one book read of The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon, and they kept asking me all these like super intensive questions that I was like, oh my gosh, like you guys know this book better than I do. But what made it so awesome was I realized like because they're in Hong Kong, all the things that I have to kind of explain to people here in the United States sometimes, like, oh, there's two stone lions in front of a gate, all those things, and there's all these different statues that like this is the god of medicine, this is the god of writing. They didn't need any of that. Like they just jumped right into the story. Like it was not, they didn't need any of the context, and it was really magical to see that, and how it was like really really spoke to them so well and so much, and they were all like, write another one. Like it was just like I was like, oh my gosh, this is the audience for this book, and it was really really nice. That was so heartwarming and made me feel so good about the book, because I think I'm really proud of The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon, but I do feel like maybe it didn't find its audience as well as I was hoping. And when I saw how well it resonated with the kids there, I'm like, oh, maybe that's why. Like it's just kind of made for a more international audience like that. Let's see, and because it was like it's contemporary, but it's like it was just like this mix of old and new, which is what they live in Hong Kong. So that was really great. Then after the school visits, my good friend Kate Milford, who people probably know as the author of Green Glass House, came to join me, and my sister-in-law came to join me in Hong Kong. And we had a great weekend in Hong Kong before we moved on to China. But the weekend was great. We did all these things. And the best part about my trip to that part was that we went to the jade market, and Hazel, before I left, asked me if I would buy her some bacon jade. I should have brought a picture. I should bring it down. Oh well, sorry, video people, but maybe we'll put a picture. Yes. So bacon jade is basically a rock that looks like meat. It's not really jade. Online they call it meat-shaped rock, and it's actually very popular in Taiwan. But I looked at the Taiwan schedule, and I knew that there was no time for me to go to the jade market there. So I said, okay, let's try the jade market here in Hong Kong. And so Kate, Christine, and I went to the jade market, and it was such an experience because Kate and Christine are white. So we walk in, and they just saw these two white girls, and they're like, yes. And all these like peddlers were like they're like so hungry for us. I was telling you last night how like we were food and they were pigeons. They were just like, yes. And they like flocked towards us, and I showed them a photo of the meat-shaped rock on my phone in my broken Chinese, and I said, well, yeah, zuga, like I want this. You have it, and they're like, yes. And they brought me over, and then the woman who was selling it to me, she's like, I'm like, how much is this piece? She's like, 500, and I was like, how much is this piece? And she's like, 400. And I said, okay, if I get two pieces, will you give me a deal? And she's like, yes, 1,800. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not a deal. And then she's like, yes, it is, because this piece is 1,000 and this piece is 1,100. And I was like, you just told me. It was like, it was so funny because, and I was like, I was standing right here and you told me different numbers. And so I actually bargained with her, but like if she hadn't been so blatant about her numbers, I probably would have just been like, la, like, okay. But she was just so blatantly like, oh, and now it's $3,000 more. And so I got her at her original prices, was not really a bargain, but at least it wasn't inflated. And but as soon as I bought it, it was like more and more pigeons came to like eat us. we were like, we gotta get out of here. It was really like a scene from a movie, like grab your jade and run. We like gotta. So it was really, but it was like a really awesome experience. Like I will always remember that. So that was really fun.
Okay, of course, I want to hear about food. So what were the food highlights in Hong Kong?
Oh gosh, Hong Kong food. Let's see. I went to Din Tai Fung in Hong Kong, but no offense, Hong Kong, but I think that the Taiwan Din Tai Fung is better. But gosh, you know what was the best thing in in Hong Kong were the egg tarts because they did the Portuguese style and they're so good. Like they're just I don't know like how they do it. And it's so flaky and everything like that. Like I feel like when you get an egg tart here in Chinatown or anything, they're like so cold and not flaky. Like they're just so delicious.
That's what okay, so I mentioned that we brought these Lisbonata, that's the brand or two of these egg tarts and they're very like I find the filling to be very creamy,
Yeah.
custardy as opposed to eggy. So I think the Hong Kong style is more eggy and then the Portuguese style is more custardy. But I'm not sure because maybe this is the only actual Portuguese style egg tart I've had.
Well, in Hong Kong, they tend to sell the Portuguese style. So I think it's like the traditional Cantonese is more eggy, but the Portuguese is more creamy, and they're just so good.
Okay, so then after Hong Kong, you went to Shanghai, right? Mainland China. So what were some of the challenges and highlights of that leg of the trip?
So from Hong Kong, we actually went to Wuxi, which is where because we were going to Suzhou first, and let's see. I got us to the airport so early because I was so nervous. I was like 4 hours early. But actually, it worked out really well because, since we are going to Wuxi, it was a smaller airport, like a smaller. So like they checked, and we were also doing a smaller plane carrier because it was from Hong Kong to China. So they like took all our stuff down and they double checked it. Like it took a while actually for us to go in. There wasn't any problems, but they're like, you have to just sit here while we double check. And then while we were waiting, I kind of saw on Instagram this place where you could in the airport, once we got in, where you can make your own little like mahjong tiles where you just color it in. And so I was like, oh, we should go here. And like, it was like gate 33. And like, we went over and like, it was really hard to find actually, because the gates are so far apart. You like gate 32 and gate 33 is like a mile away. Like, so you're like, so we finally, it was an effort to find it, but we did this craft. It was so much fun. It was free. And we were so lucky because it was only there for like, it's only there for like 10 days. It's over now. It was free. All you needed was a boarding pass and it was only there at certain hours. So like the fact that we're there at this hours, we had the time to do it and that we were there during those days, like it was so cool. It's like the cutest little like souvenir. So that was really good. So I recommend going to the airport early, even if you're embarrassed. And then, so then we got in and then we went to, China. And the biggest thing in China was, which we had luckily figured out, was Alipay. So everything is paid for by phone through Alipay. It's this app. And you can't even order, like the menus are through Alipay, like everything's through Alipay. And so when we got there, we all were like worried about our Alipay because you can't use it in Hong Kong. There's a Hong Kong Alipay and there's a China Alipay, and so like we couldn't use the China Alipay until we got to China. And I remember when me and Kate were able to buy something, we're like yes, but then Christine was not able to, and she had to do the same thing as me, like 4 hours of like with my eSIM, like 4 hours of like changing things around and putting in a different bank and like going do the runaround. So that was a real pain for her, but she did it. She was a real good problem solver, but that was the thing.
There. Okay. So you went for a specific purpose, right? And so what did you go for and what did you see?
So the reason why we went to Wuxi is because I wanted to go to Suzhou, and because in Suzhou are these 7 cat statues. So if anybody has read The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon, there's these 7 cat statues, and each one of these cats are symbolic of something, are symbolic of a certain of like the cat of happiness, the cat of status, and they're all there. The story is that these cats were placed along the river because someone had seen that that eventually a dragon would rise from this river, and they did not want a dragon meaning a new power would rise from this river, and they did not want this dragon to rise, so they put the 7 cat statues there to keep this dragon down, which just fits into my book really, really well if anybody has ever read it. And then and so I felt like, oh, I want to do a book about these 7 cats, and I have this whole idea about doing. Actually, I don't have I have a general idea of like how I want to set it all up, but I felt like I really needed to see the cats. And so that's the whole reason why I was like, we have to go to Suzhou. And not only that, I had to get a special guide because it's not something that's like a normal, like, oh, see the water village, oh, see the Great Wall. Like it's like a little obscure. So I had to hire a guide from Wild China, which is, they're unusual because they will let you kind of create your own itinerary. And I said, we need to see these 7 cat statues. And our guide Rose, basically we went for like a 3.5-mile walk through Suzhou on Shantung Street just to see all 7 cats. And honestly, it was amazing. It was just so great. It was like, it was so hard to see the cats. Like even she got like lost at certain points. She was like, which only reinforced how I was so glad I had hired a guide. I was like, there's no way I would have been able to do it myself. But it was just cool because it was such a 3-long walk. It was just like walking through China, and it was like we saw all the like villages like where real people live, as well as like the more touristy areas because the cats were all over, and it was just kind of really neat. Like even the less touristy area was like felt so magical. And I remember we were walking because they're all along the river, because the cats are along the river. And I remember we were looking at each other and like, wow, this is somebody's familiar, like it's just like, it's amazing. Like we look at it and it's like, wow, this is like so cool. Here we are walking in the middle of China while all of our friends and family on the other side of the world are sleeping. And it's just so magical to us. And then there's these people who are just like walking down the street, and this is their familia. This is no big deal to them. Like, and it's just it was so kind of cool when I think about it that way.
I do think that way living in New York City. Whenever we see like the tour buses go by and the people up on the top of the bus and they're like looking down at us and we're just going to work or just going, and we're like, yep, this is our familiar. And they're like, whoa, we're in New York City. That's so cool. Okay. What were your food highlights in the China leg?
So in China, what did we have? Now, because there's so many, we had xiaolongbao there many, many times. So yeah, so basically we ate xiaolongbao, which is the soup dumplings at every place. Because, and I still think Din Tai Fung in Taiwan is the best. So we had soup dumplings in Shanghai, which were second best. I'm sorry, Hong Kong, your soup dumplings were just okay comparatively.
They originally came from Shanghai.
Okay, and then Taiwan perfected them. And then, but we had a lot of the local delicacy. I remember, so what was really fun was, I bought those meat-shaped rocks in Hong Kong, and then in China we had the dongpo pork. I'm pronouncing it wrong, but that's the really famous pork, and it looks just like the rocks. And I was like, look, we're eating our rock, and I remember Christine and Kate looking at the pork because it's like kind of dark. It's like not the most, you wouldn't think it's like that great, but they're like, okay, we'll try it. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is delicious. And it was like, I was like, yeah. And then I realized, if you haven't grown up with it, you don't know how good, because it looks like just this like brown slab. You're like, and so like we had, and it was like the best dongpo pork I had. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm so sorry. And then we also had this fish, the sweet and sour fish, which I heard one story, which I almost put in my book, and but the guide had another story, so it was really interesting, which is like this sweet and sour fish that they call squirrel fish because the guy puts the tail of the fish standing up, and that was really, really good too. So we had a lot of local delicacies because we were in this certain area, which were really good.
Hooray. Okay. And then your last leg was Taiwan. So how was that trip? And then I think you said goodbye to Kate, right?
Yes. Yes. So we were in China, and we had a great, it was just so fun. The three of us, I think it was like we were a really good trio because Kate is so enthusiastic about everything, and she's just so open-minded and like, let's try this. And like, she's also kind of an enabler in terms of buying things. Like, if I'm like, should I buy this? She's like, yes. Whereas like Christine was much more like the voice of reason and very reasonable. She's like, well, are you going to use that? I was like, no. So but you need both, right? It's like and Christine was much more like, she's much more the problem solver, like figuring out like when things went wrong, like, okay, let's things that so it was really good. You had like the enthusiasm who would get you into trouble. And then you had the problem solver to figure out like how to get out of the trouble. And so that's why it was kind of sad to see Kate go. But she went off to Japan, and then we went to Taiwan. And oh my gosh, my mom is the one who arranged our Taiwan trip, and she's so wonderful. I mean, bless her. Like she really wanted me to like get every bit of juice out of our trip to Taiwan. So, but she scheduled us for like everything. Like our guide that I got us for China, like it ended at like 5 every day. So like we were on our own at the evening, and like we had to like figure out our own dinners, which was always a trip, right? It was like, especially in China, but it was kind of an adventure that way. But like my mom, it was like from morning to night, like we had like dinners planned, everything planned, like the menu was planned. It was like everything. And it was really wonderful because we got to see a lot, but it didn't really like, in terms of making me feel like I, what's the word? Didn't feel very self-independent. What's the word? Like, right. Yeah. You can just go along. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I just like basically, yeah. It was like everyone, yeah. Everything was I was kind of like a baby. I was like, okay, which was good. Which is good and bad. And so yes, but Taiwan was amazing. I went to see the more unusual things. I got to see the cat village in Taiwan because I told my mom I was going to China to see the cats, and she didn't really understand. She's like, well, there's just cats in Taiwan. So I went to see Cat Village, which is so sweet. It's like this old mining village that used to do mining, but they've stopped coal mining now, and so they've kind of made it a haven for cats, and it's just like so cute. There's all these cats, obviously, and like all these cat like motifs everywhere, and it was just really, really sweet. It's very unusual. And then, so, and then we went to, like, basically we saw all the sites, Taipei 101, like everything that you could think of. Oh, what was really cool is this time, I've never been, have you been to Kaohsiung before? Oh, I've never been to Kaohsiung before. It's the first time I've been to Kaohsiung, which is a new city. I usually go to Taipei and Taichung when I've been in the past. And at Kaohsiung, I saw, the dragon tiger pagodas, which are these really cool dragon things where you this pagoda where you enter the dragon's mouth and you exit the tiger's mouth, and supposedly when you do that, all your bad luck transforms into good luck, which is what I really needed because I got some really bad fortunes when I was in Hong Kong. So that it was kind of cool seeing. I really liked seeing all the temples. It was really, usually I'm just like, temples are like blah blah blah, but this time I really was into it, so that was fun.
Now I'm not sure if I actually stopped in Kaohsiung or not. I don't know. Next time I'll have to go.
There's all, they call them the floating temples. It's all on Lotus Lake, and they're like, but they're very like, they're kind of Disney-fied. They're not like, you have the really old temples. Hi, kitty cat. You're like, it's like Cat Village, but they're kind of like, they're really bright and like kind of like, I don't know, fiberglass, like huge, like like kind of like Disney, but in a cool. I liked it. I kind of like those kind of temples because I feel like they're really accessible. So like they don't feel like you shouldn't be there. Like we went to a temple in Hong Kong where where Kate and I kind of made fools of ourselves. We went to Manmo Temple and people were doing offerings, right? And I did offerings a million years ago with, like, I think my mom or something, and it was really simple. You just got ghost paper and you just put it in, like, and so Kate's like, let's go do it. And I was like, okay, no problem. And so we went and we bought the ghost paper stuff. But then when we got it, it was like, there was like this whole complicated ritual that like everybody was doing. And I was like, wait, I thought you just threw it, like, no, like, and it was like, and it was really embarrassing, right? Because everybody there was not speaking English, um and there was like, I don't know, there just wasn't a vibe where I could like Google Translate anything. And I remember feeling like so horrible, and like it's one thing to feel like you're just putting your foot in it like in a restaurant, but like to put your foot in it in like this kind of spiritual place. um but that's where Kate, it was so great because Kate was just like, okay, I'll just ask, like. And even though we did continually do it wrong, like they're like, no, you don't put that there, you put that. And we're like, oh, sorry. um Afterwards Kate was just like, oh well, whereas I felt mortified, and I remember like thinking like, but she like let it wash off for her, and I was like, that's the way it should be. Like, I was starting to like self-flagellate afterwards, and then and that was like kind of the things that like I worried about going to China. I was like, well, this is kind of not my worst nightmare, but this is the thing that I was worried about, like being like doing all these horrible things. But then hours passed, and like, what, they probably don't, those people don't even remember me, if they are remembering me, and if they do, they're just like, oh, those stupid foreign girls, which we were, like. And life goes on, which was, it was just kind of cool to think about, like, oh, you make a mistake, you just keep going.
So I guess speaking of the language barrier, I mean, and I'm sure it was very different in Hong Kong versus China mainland versus Taiwan, but how did you navigate the language?
It was easiest actually in Hong Kong, because actually most people spoke English, like or could speak some kind of English. I felt like in Hong Kong it was like, if the person didn't speak English, the next person would. The only exception was in that temple, because I think it was like the really old temple. But like any kind of shopping area and stuff like that, it was like 50% you would hit somebody. Taiwan, I felt like it was like 30%. Like you would hit one person, wouldn't, like second person, but the third person you would hit. But China, it was like zero. It was like zero. It was like really, really interesting. With the Chinese things, China trip, which is why I'm really glad we had a guide. And it was like, so we would go in to a restaurant at night, and you would scan the QR code on the table with your Alipay app to get the menu, and then there was no translation, so we would take a photo of our phone and Google Translate like that to order. We're like, okay, we'll get that. And so it was really a trip, but it was fun. It was fun.
Did you accidentally order anything that you're like, oh, that's not what we thought it was?
The problem is I kept forgetting to order rice. And so like, and then and by the time we figured it all out, we're like, forget it, we just won't have rice. So we like didn't have rice for like 3 meals, because I was like, oh well.
Low carb, I guess. Okay, so besides the language issue, or not issue, but the language difference, what were some of the other key differences that you found between the three places?
Well, I mean, China was definitely the pay, how to pay for things, was really, really hard. But the interesting thing I think was Hong Kong had like all this street art, right? It was felt really I don't know, like, I don't want to say dirty, because it wasn't dirty, but like it felt like it had like this rich underworld. I know underworld's not the right word, but like this rich culture of like street artists, and like and people who were who are like fighting the system, like underground. Like it felt more like a real like urban city. Yeah. China was really beautiful, but everything was like immaculate. Like in all the art on, even in Shanghai, the art, you felt like everything was government endorsed. Like everything was beautiful. Like and everything was so beautifully kept up. The kitty cat. Everything was so beautifully kept up, and like so well like maintained. Like you could like in some like, yeah. And then Taiwan was like a really interesting mixture of it, because didn't have that gritty. Yeah, gritty. I think that's what Hong Kong always had a grittiness to it. Taiwan didn't have that grittiness, which I was kind of surprised. I thought it would, but it wasn't like immaculately clean either, like China either. It felt kind of like a more tired China. It was really interesting, like a little bit more worn down, but worn down in a good way. Like it felt more less intimidating. I guess that's like a less intimidating China. Um, but with a real interesting Japan influence too. But there wasn't like a lot of street art or graffiti or stuff like that. So, which I thought was interesting. And no garbage cans. That's such annoying. It's so annoying. That's a very Japanese thing. No garbage cans. So you're like carrying your trash everywhere.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I remember that when I was in Taiwan. I didn't ask for your food highlights in Taiwan, but it probably was Din Tai Fung. But what else was it?
Definitely did Thai fun. Oh, because in Taiwan it was definitely the food. We went to the night markets. I discovered this new street food, the sweet potato. I don't think it's called sweet potato puff, but that's what we call the sweet potato puffs. They're so good. It's like I took a video of how they make it. It's like such a process. They've got to like boil it in oil and squeeze it out. Like somehow what they do, when they squeeze out the oil over and over again, it makes the little potato. It looks like a little gnocchi, but it makes it puff out, so it's like a bread, and it's so good. I don't know how they did it, but these little potato puffs, and then what else do we have? All the little street food things. What else? I was going to name something else. Din Tai Fun, and then anyway, the other thing will come to me. But all the food in Taiwan was so good.
Okay. Last question, I guess. What would you say the overall highlight of the entire trip was?
Oh gosh. Let's see. I think there's so many things I'll think about, right? But I think the I mean, I think the cats were really great because that's what I went to go see. So I feel it was such a fun thing. It felt like walking along there, and like it was kind of like this treasure hunt, like that was really cool. But I think the whole thing that I took away is like I felt so creatively inspired afterwards. Not that I wasn't inspired before, but like much more so. And I felt like now I have so many ideas, not just the ones that I went for, but like all these like strange little things that I saw. I was like, oh, like I'll tuck that away into a book. Like showed you last night, like we passed this place called the Museum of Broken Hearts in Taiwan, and I was like, oh, well, if I were ever to write a YA novel or a adult novel, I would place it there, and then like all these things like that, and I was like, oh, I would do a story about this lantern shop, like all these things, like all these little things that just sparked new ideas. So it was so cool that way. I think are you biting me? You're biting me, Mrs. Cat. It's not really biting me. You're biting my shirt. And then, yeah, so it was really great. Just creatively to feel like a little bit more creatively alive, and also to feel confident that I could do a big trip like this. Like that was really nice because I was really, really nervous.
Well, I know right before you left, I think you emailed or texted some of us and said you had changed your word of the year to adventure.
Yes. Yeah. When I was getting on the plane, I was like, you know what? All the words that I was saying before, I think that I don't think they're gonna work. So my word of the year, I've changed it to adventure. And I feel like everything I do from this year, all the hard things, I have to think of it in terms of adventure, no matter what. Like even not getting, even the eSIM headache was like, it's an adventure. Like, and that kind of gives it a new little twist and makes you feel like, okay, I can do this. So that was nice.
Yeah, it's like this is like I'm on an adventure. This is one of the challenges I have to overcome.
And it makes a great story later.
All right. So we're going to move on to our fortune cookie segment, which one of the survey actually people said that they don't always remember what these segments mean. So the fortune cookie segment is just a small kind of bonus segment that we tack on to our regular episodes. And this year we thought we would talk about survey because we did get our survey results. Thank you to everyone who filled out the survey. I think we got about 50 responses, which I think was better than our last survey, which we did like 4 years ago. So we're very happy. And I think the main takeaway is that our listeners like the podcast?
Well, I guess it's like a self-selected group that answers. I mean, if they didn't like the podcast, they probably wouldn't have answered the survey. So, yeah, I think there's a bit of self-selection there, but it's fun. It was interesting to me that most people are children's book authors and illustrators. Like I kind of thought that we'd have more. I kind of thought we'd have more editors and stuff like that, but it was like by far the most were authors and illustrators.
Yes, I have the Who Are You? And it was about, I would say, maybe 88% where I work in publishing. 20% is were librarians or educators. 5% booksellers, and then yes, like 68% were writer and or illustrators. No agents, at least, answered our survey. I'm a parent, and you could choose more than one. It was actually pretty low, I guess, since you could pick most, but it's like about 25%. And then there are some people who said other, and yeah, so that was interesting. I mean, I think that was similar to the last survey, so I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I think I thought maybe more publishing people would.
Yeah, I really thought there was going to be more publishing people.
Oh well. Let's say we had some of the others were there's a longtime Grace fan and children's lit fan, a youth reviewer, an educational book blogger, and then a yet to be published writer. We did one. We were curious about our day one listeners. So there were 18% had listened to about from 0 to 50 episodes. 24% listened to 51 to 100%. 100 episodes, and then over 100 episodes was 12%. And then 46% had listened to most or all of them.
Which I just think is bonkers. But so glad you're with us on this journey.
Yeah, all 300 and some episodes. And then, so we asked who were our day one listeners, and 30 of the people who've listened to all or most of our episodes, about 30 were day one listeners, which means that they were, like 46% that I guess went back and listened to all. So that's also very impressive. So thank you, day one listeners and people who have listened to most or all of our episodes. And then we had people rank the episodes that they like best by preference. And I would say, I guess the top one was episodes about publishing with just us two. And then the next was publishing curriculum.
Yeah.
And then it was self-improvement or life. And then chop suey were kind of close. And then general episodes with a guest were the least. But in the comments, most people said, I like all of them. It was hard to rank. And so I think that was interesting.
And there's lots of shout outs to Allison Morris. So
yes, for sure. So we had we also asked what type of topics. So yes. Sorry, I'm just looking at this. So yes, we did ask specifically about segments, and the people love us catching up with each other's lives.
That's nice. But I do think there was a good comment that said that we should have to explain what each segment is.
Yeah. So book recommendations, Allison was also very high. The Gratefuls was really high. And then fortune cookie segments was maybe the least high, but I think a lot of people didn't know what that was. And then the tell me about segments, which I think that ranked high enough that we probably should bring it back and maybe make it more of a backstory, because I think that's how I described it in the survey, and that's not always what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we should make sure we're more on topic with the tell me about with the backstory, but I think we should keep it. It seems like it was people were fairly interested in it.
Yeah, and I wonder maybe instead of, because I feel like that is a lot of segments, so maybe we can replace the fortune cookie with a tell me about, and then talk a little bit more, I guess, because I think when we've done the tell me about, I feel like, it has to be like really short, and it's just like whereas if it's a more of a meatier topic, I think that would be more interesting. So that was helpful. And then the website, we were curious because we were maybe thinking about maybe doing away with the website, and 44% said that it was valuable. And to be honest, I find it useful.
Yeah, so I guess we'll keep it for now, but I don't know.
Yes, and then some people said they didn't know about it, so maybe after the survey they might check it out more. I don't know. We'll discuss that. And then we got a lot of just really good feedback. So
The future, I like seeing people's suggestions for future topics. So
yeah, actually, one of the topics was to ask or for you to talk about how you come up with ideas, and I feel like you kind of talked about coming up with ideas on this trip. So
yeah, so we can talk about that more later. That would be fun.
yeah. All right. And then I'd made the mistake. I said a bonus question, any suggestions for topics for my upcoming Burl lecture? And some people were like, what is the Burl lecture? They had to Google it. I will say I did somewhat finalize a topic for my Burl lecture, which is the Barbara Ellerman Research Library Lecture, I think is what it stands for. And I'm going to talk about how a book is made, how a picture book is made. And I'm going to use, I think 3 to 5, real life picture books that I've edited.
And what is the date? And what is the date of that, Alvina?
That is Saturday, April 18th at the Carl Museum. I think it's at 1. It's somewhere in the afternoon, early afternoon, after lunch, I think, right? Or is it in the morning? Oh gosh. I should know this. I'll start touting it a little bit more, I think, as we get closer.
Well, if anybody comes to see Alvina at the Burl lecture on April 18th at 1 to 2, you should come in the day earlier because on April 15th, the Friday night, which I'll talk about more later, I am doing a special charity dance where you could watch me and my husband do a K-pop dance for charity. Like I said, I'll tell you a little bit more about this. I got roped into it by my friend Jarek Krasoska, who is also doing a dance, not with me, a separate dance. Because it's kind of a take on Dancing with the Stars. So yes. So if you want to come see me make a fool out of myself, come see my dance and then learn something about publishing by watching Alvina the next afternoon.
Yes, I know. Well, Grace had mentioned like, oh, do you want to do a K-pop dance with me? And I really thought you were just talking about it being like a class. I'm like, sure. And then I found out it was just like Dancing with the Stars thing. I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm also not a local star. So now we'll end, as we always do, with what we're grateful for. Yeah. Grace, what are you grateful for?
Too. She's like, oh, I'm all done. Like the cat just jumped off. It's like, oh, is it over? Gosh, I'm really grateful that my trip went so well. I flew in last night. The global entry was reinstated just in time for me to use it because it was such a breeze to get through with global entry. I really suggest you get global entry if you can. Yeah, and I'm just really grateful to be back home though. So, and I can't wait to see my family and wash my clothes.
I'm grateful you had a safe, smooth, for the most part, trip. And I'm grateful that, I don't know, that you could stop in New York on the way home. I think I feel lucky that we could see you on the way back before your family. And grateful for the treats that you brought back for us too, like pineapple cakes, which are really delicious, and sun cakes, which I've had, but I don't think I knew they were called sun cakes.
Yeah,
and
like a big mooncake for little star, a little sun cake for little sun cake for I guess it'd be little cloud or something like that.
All right. And that was the China and Taiwan trip episode. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to Alex at Pacey Work Studio for editing this podcast. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend about us.
And tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever or send us a message via Instagram at bookfriendsforever_podcast or via our website, bookfriendsforever.com. And please join our Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
I'm Alvina Ling. You can find me at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads.
And I'm Grace Lynn, and you can find me at Pacey Lynn and on Instagram, and you'll see all the things about my trip there. I've been trying to post all my adventures there, so kind of as a kind of like a travel log, really for myself, but I think people like them too. So go to Pacey Lynn on Instagram and Threads, and author Grace Lynn on Facebook.
Yes, I really enjoyed following along your trip on Instagram. Have a great week.
And don't forget to read. Bye.